Cleetus himself was open about the relationship after the race. "I love Mark Martin," he said. "That guy has been so gracious to me. Him and Kenny Wallace have been some of the few guys who've actually had my back." But beyond the respect and support, Rockingham left him with something far more important than validation. It left him with lessons. The biggest one was something he had never truly experienced before Side Force. In NASCAR, when a car pulls up alongside you, especially in traffic, the air pressure changes instantly. The grip disappears in a way that feels almost unnatural, like the track itself has shifted underneath you. Jesse Love, his RCR teammate and former ARCA champion, had warned him about this before the race. But warnings don't fully land until you feel them at 180 miles per hour. And Cleetus felt it. He also learned something even more unforgiving. One aggressive slide doesn't just cost a moment, it can destroy an entire run. In drag racing, mistakes are short, controlled, and reset instantly. In NASCAR, a single mistake can permanently change your race. And Rockingham made that very clear. When he went back and watched the Lap 3 incident, he didn't defend it. He didn't soften it. He called it exactly what it was. A mistake. And after the race, the message from his crew wasn't about pushing harder. It was the opposite. They didn't need him to go faster. They needed him to slow down mentally, to rein it in, to think. At one point during the race, Cleetus found himself following teammate Jesse Love, who was intentionally saving tires and running a controlled line. And watching it in real time changed something. "Shoot," he said afterward. "I've been doing that wrong all day." Sometimes, progress doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from finally seeing the right way to do it. Just 2 days later, NASCAR made its decision. On April 7th, 2026, John Probst, NASCAR's EVP and Chief Racing Development Officer, released the official ruling. Cleetus McFarland was approved for O'Reilly Series short tracks. That meant he was cleared for ARCA, Truck Series, and O'Reilly short tracks, but there was a limit. NASCAR made it clear they still needed more before approving him for super speedways like Talladega. The message wasn't rejection. It was delay. RCR's Danny Lawrence wasn't surprised. He pointed out that NASCAR never even got to evaluate a full live pit stop during the race, and several key development checkpoints simply never occurred under race conditions. In other words, the sample size wasn't complete. Cleetus didn't fight the decision. If anything, he accepted it immediately. "It was a kick in the nuts," he admitted, "but I understand it. I need more windshield time." And he didn't limit it to one series. "I need more seat time. ARCA, trucks, O'Reilly, it doesn't matter. More time is going to help me. I've got a lot to learn." No excuses, no deflection, just acknowledgement. Looking forward, his potential superspeedway debut at Talladega and Daytona is now expected to shift toward 2027. But the bigger question, whether this entire experiment is actually working, has a very real answer when you look at the numbers. Cleetus's ARCA and NASCAR streams have pulled close to 1 million viewers. That's a number even full-time Cup Series drivers rarely touch on individual broadcasts. In terms of audience reach, he's operating in a completely different category. Even competitors noticed. 2024 O'Reilly Series champion Justin Allgaier acknowledged how composed Cleetus was when being lapped and under pressure. "I know today had to be really tough on him," Allgaier said, "especially with everything he's had going on lately. But I was proud of him for keeping it together and trying to do things the right way." And when asked a more difficult question, whether he would trust Cleetus in a Talladega draft, Allgaier didn't give a headline answer. He kept it honest. "I can't really answer that. There are guys we race with every week that I'm not sure I'd want to draft with there either." It wasn't criticism. It was realism. And Cleetus himself isn't pretending otherwise. "I don't think I was super out of place," he said. "But I'm confident that with more training and discipline, I can be where I need to be." So the debate around Rockingham doesn't really come down to success or failure. It was both. A fourth-place ARCA run that showed real progress, and a difficult O'Reilly race that exposed everything he still has to learn. But through all of it, one voice carried weight beyond the noise. Mark Martin, a 4-0 Time Cup Series winner, a Hall of Famer, a driver who spent decades at the highest level of the sport. And after watching everything, every mistake, every save, every moment of control and chaos, he didn't dismiss Cleetus McFarland. He said something far more important. He said he can drive. And in NASCAR, that kind of statement doesn't get ignored. On April 5, 2026, Garrett Mitchell, better known as Cleetus McFarland, walked into Rockingham Speedway with something to prove. The 1-year-old YouTube powerhouse with 4.67 million subscribers wasn't just showing up to a race. He had just signed a developmental deal with one of NASCAR's most legendary organizations, Richard Childress Racing. And this wasn't a publicity stunt. It was an audition. Not just for fans, not just for critics, but for NASCAR itself. Because before he could even be considered for the super speedway level in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, he had to prove he could handle Rockingham. What followed would become one of the most debated days in modern NASCAR history, and it would take a Hall of Famer to finally cut through the noise. Cleetus didn't arrive here by accident. His long-term goal has always been the Daytona 500, but his path to NASCAR was anything but traditional. He built his name far outside the system through drag racing content, Crown Vic builds, wild automotive experiments, and his two signature locations, Freedom Factory and DeSoto Speedway in Florida. Over time, that content turned into something massive, a loyal global audience, millions of viewers, and one of the most dominant automotive channels on the internet. So when Ty Dillon reached out on behalf of Richard Childress Racing, the deal came together quickly. The arrangement was simple. Cleetus brought the audience NASCAR wanted. RCR brought the structure, coaching, and elite equipment needed to turn him into a real driver. Austin Dillon explained it best, saying Cleetus had a massive fan base and RCR just wanted him to come in, have fun, be himself, and bring that energy into the sport. RCR Vice President Danny Lawrence took it even further, saying they weren't just there to teach Cleetus, they were also there to learn from him. Rockingham wasn't just one race weekend, it was a doubleheader, and it told two completely different stories. In the ARCA Menard Series East race that morning, Cleetus showed real progress. He qualified 7th, worked his way through the field, and finished 4th, his best performance to date. Lap after lap he improved. The broadcast team even pointed out how visibly better he was getting every time he hit the track. His friend, George Siciliano, known online as Squirrel McNutt, also delivered a strong run, finishing 9th for his first career top 10. Both cars came home clean, and for a moment, everything looked like progress. Then came the afternoon. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race changed everything. Cleetus qualified dead last in 35th. Afterward, he admitted the truth. He got nervous on his qualifying lap and lifted when he shouldn't have. His own words, he chicken-footed it. He knew the car had grip. He just didn't commit. And that hesitation followed him straight into the race. Only 3 laps in, he attempted a bold 3-wide move into turn 1. It was aggressive, too early, and it didn't work. He lost the rear of the car, went sideways, and while he managed to save it, the damage was already done. The tires overheated instantly. In NASCAR, that kind of slide destroys rubber, and from that moment on, his race started slipping away. The problems stacked up quickly. A pit road penalty for entering his box too early. A solo spin from overdriving a corner which flat-spotted his tires. That forced him onto an already worn set that had nearly 60 laps on them. Nothing was stabilizing. Late in the race, Austin Hill made contact and sent him onto the apron. Over the radio, his spotter summed up the situation perfectly. "We've used up all 9 lives. Just chill." Cleetus eventually crossed the line 30 seconds back and 6 laps down. He finished, but the day was gone. The reaction came fast. On the Door Bumper Clear podcast, Freddie Kraft said Cleetus met expectations but not as praise. More as confirmation that expectations were already low. "If you were expecting more than that, you were kind of foolish," he said. Tommy Baldwin was even more direct. A top-tier team, top-tier equipment, and a finish deep in the field with multiple spins. His point was blunt. The result didn't justify the car, and on paper, it was hard to argue. 4 incidents in a single race, a last-place qualifying effort, and a 6-lap deficit at the finish. Even Cleetus himself later admitted the lap 3 move was a terrible decision. After watching it back, he said, "What the hell was I thinking?" But then Mark Martin entered the conversation, and everything shifted. The NASCAR Hall of Famer didn't dismiss the criticism, but he also didn't join it. Instead, he offered a different perspective. "I didn't expect more than that," he said. "I expected him to run about, like he ran." But then he highlighted what others ignored. The saves. The car control, in chaos. The moments where the race should have ended but didn't. Martin pointed out that many experienced drivers would have wrecked the car in those same situations. Instead, Cleetus kept it going. "It was a tremendous challenge," Martin said. "He got over his skis multiple times, but his driving talent saved it. I think he can drive. He just needs to learn these cars and these tracks." And coming from a Hall of Famer, that wasn't hype. That was evaluation. Martin also put Rockingham into context. He explained that racing in the middle and back of the pack at a track like this is something most fans don't understand. Worn tires, heavy traffic, constant pressure, no room for mistakes. It's one of the most unforgiving environments in NASCAR. And for someone with limited full-bodied stock car experience, just surviving it is a challenge in itself. He also praised something else: the way Cleetus handled himself off track. His interviews. His honesty. His willingness to admit when things are harder than expected. In Martin's words, that self-awareness stood out just as much as anything on track. And his opinion wasn't new. Before the race even began, Mark Martin had already said Cleetus McFarland brings something rare to NASCAR. A massive audience, bigger than many Cup drivers, and a level of attention the sport can't afford to ignore.